Getting out of an abusive relationship early makes a huge difference.
And I'm proud to say I did come in as a victim, but I am a survivor.
Then I could see my mom. My mom was walking toward us. And I got excited. And I was like, there's my mom. And then he didn't stop.
I'm trying to keep it together, I said. I gave in to the tears. And I hated that.
It's not necessarily the easiest process. It's not necessarily the prettiest process, but it is the most effective process. Like, you can do this. I'm going to tell you 100% you can do this, and you're so worth it to do this.
I'm sure losing any child is a real arrow through your heart, but you know, she was great. She was a friend and a family member and our daughter.
It feels just as good the 10th time as it did the first time, to have one of your citizens that you're out there protecting walk up and tell you thank you.
There is one thing stronger in me than fear, and that's my determination. Welcome back. This is Jen Lee, the host of I Need Blue. Today is episode 10, Conquer the Weapon. It is the conclusion to episode 9, where I confront my unknown fear of guns. A fear which was instilled in me when I became a victim of an armed robbery. If you haven't listened to episode 9, here is your chance. Visit ineedblue.net. You will also find other survivor stories, interviews with law enforcement, all conducted in a supportive format. Trigger warning, some episodes contain graphic content, including violence, abuse, murder, and may not be suitable to all listeners. Please seek help if needed. Today, I have 2 special guests. Ethan Sansoni, the general manager of FrogBones Family Shooting Center located in Melbourne, Florida, and Freddie Von Mock, an Army veteran, certified NRA pistol and rifle instructor, Academy pistol instructor, and my personal instructor, who, one step at a time, has helped me conquer the fear. Stay tuned to hear their interviews. Let's begin today with a continuation of my experience, FrogBones. Day 2. It's 7:30 a.m. I didn't cry this time. I drove the scenic route to FrogBones with dry eyes. There was a little knot in my stomach. Just 24 hours later, I pulled into the same parking spot. It's amazing how different this spot felt today. I was a few minutes early and texted Freddie to tell him I was here. He texted, "Come on in." He was waiting at the entrance door. We didn't go upstairs this time, instead headed up to a glass counter which housed all the rental pistols. If you remember the first time I walked into FrogBones, I came in through the restaurant entrance. I made my way down the hallway and ended up at this same glass counter. That first day I was there was a lot of people, muffled gunshots, someone working behind the counter. Right now, it was just Freddie and I. No muffled gunshots in the background and no one working behind the counter. I was here to live fire in the range. Freddie picked a handgun, which he felt would be a good beginning option. Easy rack slide, easy to load the magazine, minimal recoil. He put a black container on the counter. The gun was placed in the bucket along with protective eyewear, earmuffs, and ammunition. Safety is important, and each time I visited FrogBones, it is a consistent process. We turned and were facing glass windows with a view of the range. I peeked in there knowing that's where I was headed. But first, we must wear our protective eyewear and earmuffs before entering. We then walked through 2 doors. He picked a lane. Freddie placed the gun, empty magazine, and ammunition on the counter. They were lined up in formation. I stared down at the items before me. Today wasn't so much about pulling the trigger as it was hearing the sound of a gunshot and feeling the recoil. I could feel the tears. Like a puddle on my lower lid, I was thinking if I'd just keep my head straight, the puddle would remain there and not start running down my cheeks. Freddie saw it. He looked at me and said, "Look, you are safe. I won't let anyone hurt you." How do I describe how those words made me feel? During the events of the robbery, there was no one there to tell me that. No one to make me believe that or even feel that way. It was my job to make the others feel safe. But I knew that day safety was on its way. The moment during the abduction, when the police officers opened the door, I knew. It was the moment I felt safe. We felt safe, believed it, and felt no one was going to hurt us. Freddie's words reminded me that there are good people all around us. People who want to be safe and make sure others are safe. There are way more good people than there will ever be bad. That sentiment made the tears worth it. I had to load the magazine. It took a minute. All right, a few minutes. To be completely honest, it took a few days for me to learn how to load the bullets the correct way. Sometimes the easiest things are the hardest. I picked up the gun, the magazine, and ammunition laying on the counter. I'm right-handed. I placed my index finger where it should go, not on the trigger. My other 3 fingers around the handle. The gun was kind of on its side. I grabbed the magazine and pushed it in. "Make sure it is secure," said Freddie. I pulled down. The magazine was securely in place. "Roll it," Freddie said. I rolled the gun about 90 degrees so I could see the chamber. I could see the bullet loaded. "Rack it." I pulled back on the rack and released. Freddie said, "You have to let it go so you hear a snap. That way you make sure it's in place. The gun is now live." "Fonzie," said Freddie. Moved my thumb to make way for the other hand. The palm rested on the handle, my thumbs forming a single line placed just below the barrel of the gun. I became aware of the gun in my hand, the weight, my index finger away from the trigger. The day before, we talked about making a stance and how you must be comfortable and stable. I moved my feet. "Lean forward," I heard Freddie say. "Take aim." So much is going through my head. I was about to hear a gunshot, feel recoil, and wonder if I was going to close my eyes, like I laughingly told my husband I might just do. I moved my index finger and placed it on the curved trigger. "Slowly," Freddie said. I was anticipating. My hands were sweaty. I held my breath and pulled. It was loud. The earmuffs helped, but it was loud. I was still standing and in my original pose. I survived the recoil. I started to breathe again. I felt the emotion as I just overcame another hurdle. My finger was off the trigger and I set the gun down. With tears in my eyes, Freddie said, "You did great. I'm really proud of you." I shook my head yes as I was absorbing all of what just happened in the past few seconds. He brought me over a paper towel so I could wipe my eyes and hands dry. "Let's try it again." I picked up the gun and followed the same steps. I did a sequence of shooting 5 bullets in a row. "Bring it in." I brought my outstretched arms into my chest, the gun position never moving. Now, what if someone is coming at you? You don't want them to grab the gun, so you bring it in. "Now shoot," Freddie said. I shot. It made sense. I moved 2 steps to the other side and shot, and back the other way. I was being introduced to the basics. We only scheduled an hour today, which was good. You go from adrenaline to feeling overwhelmed to tired. You did good today. You should be so proud of yourself, said Freddie. I said I am with a smile on my face. Everything was put back in the black container as it was supposed to be. We walked out to the glass counter. Here, I'll walk you out. We were halfway to my car and Freddie says, I bet you feel like a huge weight has been lifted off your shoulders. I said, you know what? I do. Thank you for your help. I realized fear comes in layers, and I just shed another one. I had one more hurdle to face, shooting around other people and hearing multiple gunshots in the same room. A few days later, I returned to the range with my husband. We walked in the range, glasses on, earmuffs, black container filled with our stuff. Immediately, I jumped and jumped again from the sound of the gunshots. We made it to our lane. My husband laid out our stuff, hung the target, and helped me get situated. It was good practice to see how much I remember from a day prior. My husband is an experienced gun owner, and he tried to help me. I jumped again from the noise. I was slightly shaking and slowly put down the gun and fought back tears. They won. I'm glad we were in the last lane because I didn't want anyone to see me. We can go if you want, my husband said. No, I want to do this. I shot a few more times until I started to lose my focus. We called it a day. I would get over this hurdle one step at a time. We visited again Sunday, and my sister came along. She too loves guns and is experienced. Freddie was there, and the range was quiet at this time. He came over to me and reiterated the same steps he taught me. My husband and sister took turns hitting the target. They are very good. It was my turn. I could feel the tears. My sister was trying to console me, but I was struggling with feeling weak, and I didn't want to draw attention to me. Her intentions were genuine and special, but I knew I was the only one who could beat this. I could feel the anxiety start to set in, then the tears. I saw Freddie. When you start to feel uneasy, you leave. Don't let it get to this point. It's okay. You have only been to the range a few times. You are braver than a lot of people I know, and don't forget that. Freddie escorted me out into an office where there was not any noise or crowd. He found my husband and told him to gather up all of our things. I was going to make it past this, just not today. The next day was Labor Day. I was going to try this again. My husband, sister, and I were there at opening standing in line. I tried a new gun. The range was not busy. Freddie walked by, my husband and I. We said hi. I'm glad to see you back so soon. You're going to do great, Freddie said. Today, I could load the magazine correctly and slowly follow all the steps in my head to get this gun ready for me to aim and pull the trigger. I was feeling more confident about these steps. I worked on my stance, which will take a little time. I worked on my aim, which, well, that'll take even more time. But do you want to know the biggest difference about this visit? I didn't cry. After an hour, I told my husband I was done for the day. We gathered up our things, and I said to Freddie, "This is my best day yet." "I'm proud of you," he said. "If there is one thing greater than fear, it is my determination." Freddie calls me Annie Oakley. Give her 3 months and she will be Annie Oakley, he tells my husband. I want you to meet Freddie. His interview will follow my next guest. Let's get started. I have the pleasure of introducing Ethan Sansoni from FrogBones Family Shooting Center in Melbourne, Florida. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for guiding me in the right direction to start this journey.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it a lot.
Oh, absolutely. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the first time you shot a gun?
Well, I was born and raised in Arizona, and I lived there till I was 9 years old. And then we moved all the way across the country to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where my father was born and raised. And it was probably, if I remember, it was during that time frame, and I don't remember the specific age, it might have been 9, 10, 11 years old. My dad took my brother and I think, to a job site it was in the woods where he was kind of working. He had a 30-06 hunting rifle, and he took a gallon of milk, and I never understood why. And he walked down range, set it up, and then came back to us and walked us through a little bit of the safety of this firearm, and then just kind of took a shot. And I'll never forget seeing that thing that I had used every day, or seen every day, explode, and hearing the sound and feeling kind of the shock waves from it. And so that was kind of the first time we ever were exposed to, I think, live fire. Maybe we'd been around it when we were younger, but that was probably my first most meaningful memory. And that was the first impression of a gun. And what I appreciate about that in hindsight is I think I started from day one with a very healthy respect. And we had talked about the word fear. Fear doesn't have to be a negative thing, and a healthy fear of firearms.
When did FrogBones open?
April 15th, I believe, of 2015 is when we opened.
It's family owned. FrogBones, you are more than just a shooting range. Can you tell us what also is offered there?
We have a full service restaurant and bar. It's called Double Tap Grill. Those that are interested can wander next door at the FrogBones Family Shooting Center, where there's 18 lanes, and we have a world-class brand new training facility. We have a large internet sales department and offices and retail space and accessories. And so, yeah, we're just two businesses under one roof, which is really just one business.
That's great. And, I'll go back to your check and balances, because the first time my husband and I were there, you put your hand underneath this blue light. You have to put each hand, and I didn't know for the life of me why I had to do that.
There's two things I would say we try to run our business with grace with employees on a lot of things, because I know we've all been extended grace and need to learn. Two things we don't offer a lot of grace in are the hand stamping. So a waitress next door, or a server or bartender, they'll be told once about they must stamp a hand. Employee, owner, I'm not shooting. It doesn't matter. If you have a drink, you get your hand stamped with kind of like an invisible ink. And then everybody on the range side, range checking in, they have to check your hand. So we are very vigilant about A, stamping, and B, checking. So that's the purpose of it. It is kind of funny, because watching people's reactions that have never been here, that they don't know what you're doing. I think last week, someone out, I was near the range counter and saw that confused look, and they were like, "What is this for?" And I was like, "Well, we check for vaccines, and and like some people around who knew started laughing. But I get to do that. I get to make terrible jokes and not get written up for it.
During our first conversation, I asked if you had dealt with any other survivors of traumatic situations. Can you share any experiences you had?
A young lady and her boyfriend were at the door, and kind of let them in, which isn't odd. We offer kind of like private classes before we open, and she looked very like sheepish and scared and all that, but that's not that uncommon. People get nervous before classes with firearms sometimes, and so I asked the gentleman at the time who was training, like, "What is everything okay? And what's going on?" He goes, "Yeah, she's actually one of the," and I don't remember which it was. This was 4 years ago. I don't remember which school shooting it was. And he said that she had come in over the weekend and tried to face her fear after all those years to shoot a gun again or be around it, and she just kind of had a breakdown. He got her off the range, talked to her, and encouraged her, "Hey, why don't you come back when we're not open, and I'll walk you through it. There'll be no one in the range. There'll be no firearms going off, and we can move at your own pace." I just remember thinking back then, 4 years ago, what a brave person. I wish this side of the story was told. There's so many sides of the endless gun debate that never get told that I see every day at FrogBones. And I'm not an extremist by any means. Like, I'm not anti this or pro that. I just wish the complete stories of all things got told, but specifically in our industry when it comes to firearms. I thought that was just such a testament to her bravery and to the I think the overwhelming evidence that it isn't about the gun, it's about the individual. And sure, some people can experience something traumatic and run as far away from that item that caused trauma to them and blame it on that item and call it's that thing. And then there's other people that I think through healing evolve past that and realize that that's just misplaced anger or fear, and then they overcome it, which is your story. That's why I think your story is so cool, and I'm glad you're doing this, and I'm glad I don't think I've ever seen anyone in the history of FrogBones press through so much fear and anxiety and come out the other side. And it didn't just take one sitting or session. It took multiple sittings and sessions. So I think you're very brave for doing it, and even braver for telling your story.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're here. I mean, we're not just here to sell firearms and make burgers, The education and training of the community is something that we take very, very seriously. It's very important to us that we are kind of like an asset to our community in that way. And I think that I'm very thankful you're telling that side of our story. That's an important part of who we are that needs to be communicated to the public, that we're here for you. We're here for you beyond purchasing your firearm. We're here for you for moments like these, or if you just want to, brush up on. We all need that. Like, we all get complacent. If you haven't touched a firearm in 6 months to a year, it's just good to get refreshed on the basics.
Yeah, and that's what my husband did. So you offer like concealed carry classes, which is what my husband took as a refresher, and then private classes, which is what I took. So there is something for everyone. FrogBones is a family shooting center. What is the youngest age allowed to shoot, and are there kid training classes?
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something that we are definitely thinking about offering to the community in probably 2022, where we do something once a month and open up our training room to just specifically child classes for children with an accompanied legal guardian or adult with you, and you can demonstrate that you can listen to your legal guardian and handle a firearm somewhat safely, and that legal guardian demonstrates that they're competent and comfortable doing that. Like, you can come here and shoot around 10 years old, kind of like when I first started shooting. It's a tough line for us, to be honest. We want kids to get comfortable with a firearm, to fear it, to understand it, to be aware of what it can do. We can't do that. Our job is to not train someone's child. That all lands with the parents. We just provided a place for them to do, for one generation to train the next generation. That honestly is the ideal situation, because we don't have enough trainers to, train Brevard County, but we love being a place where you can bring your son or your daughter or your grandson or your granddaughter and teach them the things that you've learned.
That's great. Can you share some closing remarks with us, Ethan?
I guess I haven't talked about this a lot. I was 22 years old. I had someone with some guns around me that kind of were roughing me up and robbing me, and I had a firearm on me, and it was concealed carry firearm. I remember the feeling of like, gosh, I hope they don't find this. What do I do? Uh, my life's not in danger, so I don't want to pull this thing out and start shooting. So it was like one of those situations where I was technically robbed. Um, the gun wasn't drawn on me, but they had guns, and I was robbed, and it ended well. And I remember thinking, like, I remember taking a class years later with an instructor, and he was telling me I did the wrong thing. He was like, "No, you should have pulled your gun out and taken charge of the situation," and yada yada. And I just remember thinking, well, it ended with me losing like $10 and everyone keeping their life. Just come down here, experience it, experience a very friendly, normal, healthy environment that happens to have firearms in it. I'm thankful there are people like you that have had really good experiences. We didn't know you were coming. We haven't, like, other than your situation, we haven't treated you any different than anyone else. And I'm glad that you're telling that story, because it's more powerful coming from you. People listen to me and they're like, you're just trying to pitch your business or sell something, but I'm really not. I'm happy you're telling our story from your perspective.
I appreciate the opportunity. The class started out talking about Florida law. So that is another benefit of taking a class there as well, because the laws are different depending upon which state that you live. Thank you. This is Ethan from FrogBones Family Shooting Center in Melbourne, Florida. You can find all the information on frogbones.com. Ethan, thank you so much. It is now my pleasure to introduce my instructor and my friend, Freddie Von Mock. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
How long have you been with FrogBones?
I've been with FrogBones a little over a year, but I've been with them since they opened as a customer and a shooter.
Okay, great. So they just saw you one day in the range and said, "Hey, you're really good, man. We need you."
No, I think they were stuck and they needed somebody, and they approached me and they asked me if I wanted the job as an RO. That's how I started as a range officer.
What does it take to become a range safety officer?
Well, a range safety officer has to have some knowledge of firearms. I already had my NRA certificate for training. I've had that for almost 4 years now. They knew that by me going to the range and shooting.
So how common is it for people like me, first timers? How common is it for us to be nervous?
Everybody is nervous, men or women, the first time out, even if they just come in for their concealed license. When we go downstairs to shoot, everybody's shaking, everybody's nervous, they forget what to do. That's normal.
What do you find is the most challenging part of dealing with somebody who has some emotional trauma than the normal person?
Well, what I like to do is to step out of the picture and look into it. Everybody is their own person. You have to try to figure out what they're really looking for, how they feel, and try to adjust to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can do, They have a lot of problems. They went through hell, and now they're trying to fix themselves, at least trying to protect themselves.
Yeah. And so you do private classes, but then you also teach concealed carry classes, because that's the one that my husband went to. And he said that it was very informative. So you go a little bit, talk a little bit about Florida law, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We go over a lot of PowerPoints for the concealed carry classes. We do in the privates also. Even to do my class, I tell them that I work for them. That's what I'm doing. You're paying me, I work for you. When we go downstairs to qualify for your concealed carry, I don't work for you anymore. You have to listen to what I tell you to do and be able to perform it well. Otherwise, I can't give you your certificate.
Yeah.
You'll have to come back. I tell them that I'll come in on my day off and show you. You don't have to pay again. Just to make it easier for them. I want everybody to carry a gun, every law-abiding citizen. I know the police could use as much help as they possibly can.
Right.
I'd rather see everybody, but we're not going to give it to you if you're not proficient with a firearm. Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen.
How was your childhood growing up?
My childhood growing up was horrific, if that's the right word. I was emancipated at the age 15, which means I don't need any parents to sign for me. I was already homeless. At 17, I joined the Army. The only reason I joined the Army is because I had no place to live. I figured I would join the Army or I was going to take a big rock and throw it through a jewelry store window. Either way, I wanted to get out of the cold. So I joined the Army. I was in for 6 years. Got out of that, started my own business, a painting contracting business in New York. And life goes on from there. When I was a kid, I was a troublemaker. I was a bad kid. There's no question about that. The state of New York put me away for about 2.5 years when I was 14. They didn't like me because my father was a jerk when he was younger and he was incarcerated and they all knew him, so the last name followed. But after a while, as I grew up and got out of the Army, I had a daughter and she actually got engaged to a friend of mine who moved in next door to where we lived, and he was a cop. And I became good friends with him to the point where we got into business together. We started a carpet cleaning business together. And my daughter wound up marrying him, having 2 kids. So I got to know a lot of the cops and what they have to do and what they have to go through. And I gained a lot of respect for those guys from there. Absolutely. As a kid, I didn't know any better. I flunked out of school. You know what I mean? I never even made it to junior high. But as I grew up and seeing what they have to do and what they have to go through, the police, absolutely nothing but respect for those guys. Absolutely.
That's great. I thank you for sharing that.
Not a problem.
So that's awesome. So, can you tell us what a range safety officer does, what your responsibilities are?
My responsibility in the range is to keep everybody safe from themselves and others, just to make sure they don't hurt themselves, to keep the firearms pointed in a safe direction. That's what I do all day. And that's why I wear a bulletproof vest. Everybody's usually pretty cautious, but you always get that one person that doesn't have any idea what they're doing. Even people that have their concealed carry. All right. Many people call me over to the booth. Excuse me, sir, can you show me how to load this? And I would ask, you never fired a firearm before? No, I have my concealed carry. I just don't know how to load it. Well, where did you get your concealed carry from? A lot of people, they go to the gun show, 1, 2, 3, they're in line like cattle. They just march them right through. They shoot a 22 suppressed into a bucket, and they give them their concealed carry. We don't do that at FrogBones. We give them the class. We make sure they have to shoot, otherwise they don't get it. They won't have to pay for the class again, but they will have to come back and show us that they're proficient with a firearm. Simple as that. They ain't getting it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to know what you're doing. And even after you get it, you still have to train. You have to train. It's something that gets rusty very, very fast. You have to stay on top of it. If you don't have the money to go to a range, you could practice at home with a snack table in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
Just make sure the ammunition is on the other side of the house.
Yeah.
Buy some snap caps or dummy rounds. We can't call them anymore. We have to call them Nerf rounds. But buy snap caps.
Yeah.
And train.
Can you give an example of a time when you had to, say, escort someone out of the range?
Quite a few. I usually give them a second chance depending on what the violation is. Gun out of the booth, they're done. They have to leave, absolutely, especially with their finger on the trigger. I would say 10 times a month, there's somebody that turns and points the firearm, whether at me or one of the other ROs, with their finger on the trigger. Not because they're doing it viciously, just because they're not used to it and they don't really know what they're doing. Depending on the circumstances, as if you have to ask them to leave or not. You know, we don't want to be a range where everybody gets thrown out, but we do want to be a safe range.
Absolutely. And one thing I talked about with Ethan is kids and training kids and things like that. Have you had a lot of kids in the range?
I had quite a few. It's a little bit of a challenge, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. They're very nervous in the beginning, but after a while, they really warm up really fast, and they don't have any bad mistakes. You don't know anything, so what you show them, they kind of listen and they follow instructions. They're perfect when it comes to stuff like that. They don't have any bad habits, I'm looking to say.
Right. When's the first time you shot a gun?
Oh, I shot a gun when I was a kid,
Yeah.
as a juvenile. I've always carried a gun, even in New York. I used to work in the Bronx Terminal Market in New York, which was really, really a bad part of town. And we tried to get concealed carries for the business. The owner of the business was trying. All they did was just give you to run around and a run around and a run around. It took forever. But we all carried anyway, just in case. That old saying, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. As soon as I got my Florida license, I ran to the gun store to buy a gun. Talking to the guy, I purchased one. He stuck his hand out and said, "Welcome to America." What a true statement. Unbelievable. Comparing New York to Florida, unbelievable. Everything. I mean, even the people. Even the people here are much better. I'll never go back to New York.
There's always talk about the gun laws. Do you think that, in regards to gun violence, that it starts with redoing the whole gun laws?
All the law-abiding citizens have to jump through hoops to get their gun. All right? Which is good in a certain way. I think everybody should have some training before they buy a gun. That's the only thing I object to. The way it is in Florida, all you need is a driver's license, and to be 21, you could go in the store and buy a gun. Wait your 3-day cool-off period, and then you go pick it up. Which is cool if you're young and you want a gun. But it should involve some training. Absolutely.
What's a cool-off period?
It's 3 days. They do a background check on you.
Oh, gotcha.
Basically, I know that's what it was in New York. If you're really mad at somebody, you can't go to the store, buy a gun, pick it up, and walk out with it because you'll run over to their house and shoot them dead with it. At least with the 3 days, it gives you time to cool off, to think about what's going on. But a lot of people want constitutional law, which means you should just be able to go buy a gun, which is a good thing too, but there's no training involved. There should be some sort of training for everybody. There should be. But besides that, it shouldn't be like it is in New York. Forget it. You got to give a lung and a kidney in order to get a concealed permit. Not here.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. If there was more good people with guns, the bad guys wouldn't stand too much of a chance. They don't jump through hoops to get a gun.
Oh, no, they don't.
It's pretty simple. No matter what the gun laws are, the bad guys are always going to have guns.
Yeah. Well, and I had somebody that said no guns, that's not going to limit gun violence because criminals are criminals. They don't care about the law.
They're always going to have guns. Absolutely. Yeah. Just like I wanted a gun when I was in New York. They wouldn't give me the permit. I had one anyway. You know what I mean? I had one, and I had no training back in New York. Absolutely not. But I wasn't a bad guy.
Yeah.
After a while.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I think I'm pretty cool.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for joining us for such a special episode today. Thank you to FrogBones, Ethan, and Freddie for being part of my journey. And thank you to you, the listeners. You can find I Need Blue podcast on our website, www.ineedblue.net, as well as on all of your favorite podcast platforms. I do have a private Facebook group, I Need Blue Podcast Community. Feel free to sign up, join, be part of our conversation. We would love to hear from you. As always, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon.